Hey, Anand, welcome. Thank you for joining the show. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for having me as well. Great to see you.
Likewise. Well, we have known each other for many, many years. And in some weird way, we've almost led a parallel lives on two different continents, right? And
Yes.
it's been amazing to see, all the things you've accomplished and the impact you've created. But I want to start first with going back into your early stages of your career. You had a very successful corporate career. What led you to decide to go off on your own and become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a good one actually, and I'm a mature entrepreneur, not an early stage entrepreneur. So it's a lot of things that kind of culminates to for you to kind of make that jump. So a little bit of backdrop about me. So I grew up in India. I was born in Tata City, Jamshedpur. And when I was 19, I came to the UK to do my studies. I'm one of five siblings, youngest one, the black sheep in the family. My brother is the eldest one, so he did all the IIT and kind of big kind of education, got through the whole kind of process, and he was a big influence in my life, and I also felt that he gave me the foundation to do what I wanted to do, right? And I got very lucky to get a scholarship to come to the UK. And I also felt, even like jumping from India, not going through the whole track of being an engineer or a doctor, and doing the first degree outside India is also very entrepreneurial, right?
Yes.
So that was my first that was my first taste of being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And just little kind of kind of stories that made me quite resilient. So I grew up in a really modest kind of family background, and my parents didn't have money to send me to UK or US for bachelor's degree. Um, so my dad had a lot of land in his village, right? So, and at that point, I needed a little bit of money. Even though I was on scholarship, I needed a little bit of money to kind of come and like look after myself. So he spent a month in the month of November um, in his village to kind of get the land measured, so that that can be used as a collateral for
Wow.
only bank in India who was actually giving loans out in a different depository currency.
Oh
So it's
my God.
pound sterling, for my parents to help me realize my dream to leave the country and do something that otherwise would not be done in the country
Mhm.
for bachelor's degree. And everybody's saying, why are you sending your son to other country? He'll never come back, and he will
Mhm.
not do this and not take care of that. And despite all those kind of headwinds, my parents and especially my brother supported me to be kind of taking my first steps towards
Mhm.
being a risk taker. And I landed in this country. And by the way, I'm in London in the UK. So I landed in this country, and that was the kind of given that had given me a lot of strength and
Mhm.
resilience that I can do stuff. So that was my first taste. And throughout my university life, and post that, I had to do many things, just like an Indian would do in his early or her early kind of days, to kind of being quite enterprising, to kind of support themselves or create different kind of mini ventures, as I used to call them in university. I used to have a laptop very early on my university days, and I was doing typing for essays, handwritten essays into typed essays for some of my friends, right? And that was like 10
I
pounds,
love
20 pounds here and there. So those are like like safe environment for being an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
And thereafter, my kind of corporate career started, and as you know, Nikki, I kept working in corporate world until I became one of the youngest CEOs for Interpublic Group, and we met at Sapient. So I was the director at Sapient in the UK. Um, and at that point, I realized that this is my last chance, or a couple of before second last chance, I would say, to do something that I believe in, right? And I have to say, my wife, who I met at my university, we've known each other for 25 years. She was a big courage to say, hey, go and kind of follow your dream. So that gave me a like little stamp saying, okay, now I feel that I can take a decision with the support of my life partner. At that point, we had Anushka and Ruhan, our kids. Anushka was only kind of 2 years old, and and I had enough money in the bank to say, okay, we have a runway of around 6 months to 9 months that I can take a bit of a risk on, right? And as everybody says, that those are the little kind of ingredient you need to say, okay, can you jump in? And as Indians, as you know, we work really hard, right? So hard work is the way
Yeah.
that are inbuilt in us. So a lot of hard work, a lot of support from my family, especially my wife, and a bit of luck, because one of the clients basically said, I'll give you an opportunity, I'll give you a chance, and he threw a very small project towards me, and that project led me to create something that the client was like, whoa, I didn't realize you can do this, let's work with you more, right? So given all of those things, I would say a lot of perseverance, a lot of support from the family, and a bit of a luck with a client that came in,
Right.
that just gave me enough confidence to kind of make that leap, I guess.
That's an incredible story of hustle and grit, right? Because, and I can totally relate. We have very similar journeys in that. But I think the ability to find a way, no matter what, and never give up and keep going is really the fundamental of entrepreneurship, anyway. I'm
Absolutely.
curious, now looking back, because as you said, you're a mature entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur, you've built and co-founded many companies. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned throughout your career journey that is, that you see as the essence of success?
Yeah, and I think, I'm still learning from very successful entrepreneurs like yourself as well. I feel that, one of the things that beats everything is that hard work.
Mm.
You got to have the hard work built in them. And I've seen so many people who want to jump on the bandwagon of startups and entrepreneurship, but they simply are not, respectfully so, that's simply not designed to be an entrepreneur, right? And
You got
I've
to have the
read the
stomach
stories
for
about Brian, stomach for it, right? And it's got to have that, I'm ready to give it all in, right?
it. Mm.
And I believe that, I'm an all in or nothing kind of guy, right? And that's how my philosophy is, and that works even at previous corporates. I've given my all in because I believed in what I did. So I think that's something that I believe that people like you and I and many other people have built in, given the worlds that we've come in from. And I've read many interviews of many successful people, and I feel that we never kind of are satisfied, right, with our previous achievements. We always want to kind of push to the next one very quickly. And I think the reason we do that is because we don't want to go back to how it was for our previous generation or what we saw growing up, right? So that's kind of the two things that drives me a lot. The third thing I would say is it's not just about the idea, right? It's about the execution. And
Mm.
I call it execution at speed, right? And I really believe a lot of entrepreneurs want it perfected before
Mm.
you kind of release to the market. But my belief is perfection is the biggest killer of any business, right? So when you kind of have the ability to release and learn and kind of iterate quickly, I really believe in that kind of mindset of prototype, not PowerPoints, is a big kind of learning. And the third one is, like there's a saying that if you want to go alone, you go faster. If you want to go far, you go together, right? And I
Mm.
really believe that it's about the right team.
Mm.
And when I say right team, I say it really carefully because it's very hard to find the right team.
Yes.
Some of the businesses that I have been thankfully successful in, I was the main co-founder and main founder, I should say. But some of the business I was a co-founder as well. Successfully, I felt that having that right partner, right team is so important
Mhm.
because you might have the great idea, you might be executing, but if your minds are not meeting together, if you're not connected together, if you're not, giving in what you're getting back together, I think that could be fatal for any business. So those are three things I would say in terms of hard work, grit, of course, in terms of releasing something to the market rapidly and learning from that. And lastly, you got to have at least the first few people, 3 or 4 people,
Mhm.
you got to get that right. Otherwise, I think there is some danger later on in the process.
Speaking of talent and team, every leader kind of has their own, certain viewpoint. There's some very common traits of what we look for in hiring and talent. But every founder and entrepreneur also tends to have their own version of that. What's yours?
Um, Mine is, I realized it very late in my career, right? Like Anand Verma wants to do everything and, like wants to get involved in everything. I feel that, and I think this comes with age, I think. I feel that I'm a starter. I am a builder, right? I'm not an operator. I
Hmm.
realize after a long time that I'm not an operator. I mean, I'll do it for earn a living, but I'm not. If I had all the
Hmm.
conditions given to me, I said I'm amazingly brilliant at building stuff and building stuff in the arena where things are still unknown and things
Hmm.
are still kind of quite vague. I'm good at that kind of stuff. I'm also, I think I'm really good at sparking fires in people's bellies, right? I think I can get a team going pretty quickly of diverse nature.
Hmm.
Um, and lastly, I would say I'm a generalist of multiple kind of areas, like creativity or design, for example. But then I did computer science and maths in my degree, so I know enough about technology. And then this whole concept of what I call is commercialization or monetization is how do you bring design and tech to create something that would otherwise not be possible. So our earlier
Hmm.
conversation about how do you kind of reimagine things, right?
Right.
And I feel that I've got enough to think laterally and enough to kind of get at least a version of that thinking out quickly to the market. But as soon as the company becomes 150, 200 people, 10 million, $20 million revenue, I do need heavy duty support from somebody who's a solid operator,
Yeah.
who can work with a builder basically.
Yeah. And I think recognizing, our own sweet spot is actually what leads to success because it allows you to let go of the things that may not be ideal. But like you
Exactly.
said, it comes with age and maturity and a lot of painful mistakes when you realize, I wish I'd known this sooner.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and that's why I can share some of these things at my age now
Yeah.
with my son, for example, who's 14. And I tell my son that, look, don't work for anyone. Just if you've got a great idea or if you've got an idea, just give it a shot, right? Because having that confidence at the age of 14, 15, I wish I had that,
Mhm.
because I almost feel that I've lost that kind of 20 years,
Yeah.
opportunity, right? But things happen for the right reasons.
Yeah. What's your view of confidence? How do you think confidence is really built?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point because I feel confidence and credibility go hand in hand together, right?
Mm.
So I'll give you an example. Um, I feel confident to share my experience with someone because I've gone through that experience, right? So
Right.
I'm confident sharing that. However, the the dilemma is that how do you start something when you haven't done something before, right? So if
Mm.
you look at some of the biggest companies who are very successful, Uber, Airbnb, and many others, if you look at the founder's story or read it, they hadn't had the experience of building that before, so they built something in terms of completely new category and they're confident about it. So I kind of coined this term, not coined this term, I use this term a lot, is fake it till you make it, right? So, so how do you kind of show that confidence? But you should have enough grit and
Mm.
perseverance and have a can do, will do attitude to show that what you're imagining, you
Right.
know, what you're faking it in your mind till you make it, they both run together. So there is some sort of innate confidence you need to even kind of say, hey, I want to do something amazing.
Mhm.
And then you need to figure it out in terms of enough confidence to work with a group of people to build what you're imagining, right?
Yeah.
So I think I would think previous generation will say, okay, get it done first, get it done too many times before you confidently talk about it or show your credibility. I think the current generation, given the world is moving so fast, I think a bit of fake it till you make it
Yeah.
is really important, with a bit of confidence, but a humble one. Humility is a part of that confidence, but ability to work really hard
Yeah.
and really creatively and really in an agile way to create, to create that confidence. And by the way, Nikki, this is an iterative thing, right? So just like data builds up over a time, confidence, in my view, can build over a time. But
Mhm.
if you get cocky and if you get arrogant, right, and that's a thin line between that, that's where I think some of the magic of confidence start to become tricky.
Yeah, I think what you're describing sounds so much like innovation, right? I mean, the fundamentals of innovation, of having a perspective about the future, something that is bigger than yourself, where purpose drives that certainty of purpose and what you're doing, but at the same time, taking agile and small steps and iterating over
Yes,
and over again, that builds certainty and gives you evidence of
absolutely.
success. And that's what creates that level of confidence.
Absolutely. And also, I think the belief, I think what you also kind of, as you're talking, this word that comes in my mind, which is kind of, belief, right? If you
Mhm.
believe in something, right? And we have seen some amazing stuff, right? The teams when they won, sports matches, the teams who deliver fantastic product overnight, for example, the vaccine that came out, a few days
Yeah.
ago, for example, that happened with the sheer belief that it can be done, right?
Yeah.
And the whole ideology of, if you go to the, aspire for the moonshot, you get to the treetop, it's fine, it's better than where you were before you
Mhm.
believed in it, right? And I
Yeah.
think that, in my view, is also a big part of just being confident about your beliefs.
Yeah. And when you have that belief, it also allows you to bet on yourself and take those risks. I mean, just like you did, you had a 6-month runway, but if you didn't believe in yourself or what you were doing, you, even with the 6-month runway, chances are you wouldn't step onto it.
100%. And I think that's the law, that's the biggest inertia that a lot of amazing entrepreneurs, male or female, feel, right? Or lack, right? That I can't do it. There's a bit of a barrier, right? Oh, it's I'm happy kind of getting my monthly check,
Yeah.
from my existing employers, and I believe that that's also doing injustice to the opportunities for them, but also imagine what the world is missing, right? Because
Yes.
they might come up with things that really truly kind of, powerful for changing the world, right? Be it whatever problems that they wanted to fix. And I really believe that it always starts with that, that belief. Do I believe enough to give it a shot, or
Mhm.
do I not believe enough in myself to give it a shot, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's a really important one. And I think, you start to see some amazing entrepreneurs emerging, from, if the belief system start to work together for them.
Absolutely. So speaking of belief and what's next, let's talk about what you are focused on right now and share with us what your current focus is and why it matters so much.
So after 9 years of running a company similar to yours, you're doing that in North America. I was doing that in Europe, mainly in the UK. I sold the company in 2017 to Infosys, one of the largest Indian IT tech players, and I did my 3.5 years of integrating the company, creating immense value. I learned a lot, of course. I realized, 6 months ago that I wanted to do something a bit more purposeful, and then at least kind of try my best to kind of solve some of the bigger issues that
Mhm.
world is facing, but without kind of learning new skills, basically. So using my existing skills and network to kind of do so. So the new company is focused on uh, the creating positive change by bringing design and AI together. As design was my forte in my previous company. So our belief is that the world is facing a serious challenge with climate. Decarbonization is top of everyone's agenda, from Apple, Microsoft to Shell and
Yeah.
BP. And technology has a huge role to play in for us to understand, and visualize this problem, but also do all the right things to solve this problem as well. So that's our one kind of big focus. And the other big focus is how do you actually humanize AI so that AI is not just by data scientists for data scientists, and actually can go in the hands of people who are actually doing their best every day in those organizations. So we are going to focus on creating, net zero kind of outcome and outputs for world's energy companies by combining design and AI together. It's very early stages of the company. I only left my previous company 6 weeks ago. So we are kind of creating the brand proposition, we're creating the purpose, we're creating the type of company that we want to be, because it's also for us, it's a blank canvas to create a company
Yes.
in a very different way. And I feel that we want to create one of the most inclusive and diverse teams in the world. World is our oyster right now. We can have talent from anywhere in the world through remote tools, just like you and I are talking. I think we want to be one of the really an appealing company. It's a purpose-led company, but incredibly commercial as well. And the idea is to focus on the climate change and do our bit for our generation, but also for the next.
That's incredible. I mean, talk about focusing and leveraging your skills and experience and your network from the past, but applying it towards a really important mission that is frankly solving one of humanity's greatest challenges. And that, when you're on a mission that big, a lot of people opt in to support that. And along those lines, I'm curious what has helped you get the support of sponsors and advocates? Because as we've both learned in our careers, you can't really get ahead as fast without the support and advocacy. And a lot of people struggle with that. I don't know how to ask. I don't know who to ask. What has helped you?
Yes, and that's the beauty of being a bit older entrepreneur than starting when you're a 21-year-old, right? So I'm part of this fantastic YPO group. I'm part of a fantastic forum of 9 or 10 people who are dear friends of mine, and I share a lot of initial ideas and thinking with that group on a monthly basis, and just to kind of even for them to kind of ask questions and share their experiences has been a fantastic support. So I've been very lucky. I always share the ideas with my family and my wife and my 14-year-old and 9-year-old kids, and I feel that some of the questions they ask allows me to create answers or give answers that everybody can understand, right? It just brings me to the ground, saying that don't talk jargon, actually talk about something that you're doing that other people can understand.
Yeah.
And then a number of people who have been my coaches or my ex-clients. For example, one of my ex-client who is on the board of a very large energy company, he has kindly given me his time every other week just to say, hey, what are you trying to do? What is the problem you're trying to solve? And I think I'm so grateful that it's almost like they're testing my proposition, our proposition, before it goes to the market, right? So I think that has given a lot of confidence, and of course, everything else that's happening in this world, actually, Nikki, right? So with Paris climate and UN's sustainable goals and ESG funding and investment from the banks, and Biden getting elected and signing or re-signing the Paris Agreement, I think there's so many things that are happening politically, geopolitically, and environmentally that just feels that this is the right thing for us to do and focus on.
Well, I'm excited to see where you and your team take this because it's something we all need. But I also love the unique and innovative approach you're bringing to that. Tell us a little bit about your perspective of why diversity matters even more in the digital age, in the age of AI and automation. Why does it matter? And you speak about building a truly diverse and inclusive company. What's your perspective on the importance of it?
So first of all, it's a huge topic, and I've seen it firsthand at my previous company, both from a corporate lens as well as from a startup lens. And our startups are a little bit easier to kind of resolve some of the problems that that lack of diversity or inclusivity can create. I think, first of all, I think what was my biggest driver was my family, right? I've got a daughter, a son, right? And it's very important that, she should never feel that there was not equality, or there was no equality, or there's no opportunity for someone like her. And same for my son, right? So we treat them extremely equal. We are doing our best to ensure that there is a confidence in her and
Mm.
him that actually allows them to create a future that I'm envisaging for my new company. So it was personal first of all. Second of all, I learned a lot from Brilliant Basics creation from day one to where it kind of netted out. And what I realized was diversity and inclusivity is a strength, both on the culture and value side, but also on the commercial side. And a lot of people don't realize it, and that's why it becomes an issue, right? Because they don't realize the value. It's not kind of ingrained in the DNA, or they're putting a lip service on their corporate brochure to kind of raise this kind of awareness. So my take on diversity. So first of all, diversity and inclusivity are two big topics, and I'm still learning. So I'm not an expert, but I'm doing my best to ensure that this is core part of my new company, because it's a clean slate to do things in a way that I learned from my previous one. Just like innovation iteration that you're talking about, right? So first thing, is the world is a melting pot of talent, as Satya Nadella said. Talent is distributed equally, but opportunities are not. So I feel that that because of COVID, in a positive way, it has just created, world has become much more flatter, much more connected, and much more full of opportunities and exciting kind of areas of collaboration. So I feel that the diversity that's available, not just in London or Glasgow or Paris, I think the world has become a diverse world of amazing talent. And and that's not just about color, race, and language. It's about talent distribution. It's about multidisciplinary teams. You know how our companies work. You need a data scientist to work with a user experience, to work with a product manager, right? And that, in my view, is an opportunity of a lifetime for the company that we're trying to build here. So diversity is exciting, but what's even more important in my mind is inclusivity, because
Mhm.
you can be most diverse, but you can't, sometimes you're not as inclusive.
You're
So
right.
inclusivity comes as an agenda which allows us to start behaving the way we want our kids to be included in our family discussion, for example. We look at not just the way we talk to each other, for example, biased and unbiased consciousness, for example. There's so many different areas. And I feel that, my goal for the new company is to build one of the most inclusive and diverse companies in the world. And I would like to be a case study that other peoples can learn from, which means that responsibility on me
Mm.
is to ensure that we are reimagining the diversity and inclusivity as a commercial success, but also as a cultural success. So we're thinking about all aspects, right? What kind of policies we have in the company, what kind of remuneration plan we have in the company, why pay models, right? In terms of performance management, for example, feedback model, people who are introvert versus extrovert, right? How do you ensure that all of their feedback start to come into emotional well-being, which is a big issue that everybody's facing right now? How do you do safety checks on people on Zooms, right? So things like that is really something that we are recrafting, but with the help of user experience, AI, design, and data, right? Those things are all enablers in my view. The other thing that's really exciting, because we are using AI for solving some of the climate problems, we're looking at how to bring ethics, privacy, trust, unbiased AI models, right? So that, yeah, you can start to look at data in a very different way. And this is, by the way, one of the biggest issues AI has. Is very male dominated, the way AI is actually modeled today versus the way AI should be modeled in future. So which means that you've got to look at a really large data sets, right? Really large, diverse data sets.
Yeah.
And sometimes data is not available in that set, because data is, created, those models are created on the basis of where the work was done, be it London or Paris or whatever. And as the world is becoming flatter, the opportunity to see the data is also
Mhm.
really exciting. So I think, it's quite tightly connected in terms of the policies and frameworks with data and AI and design, kind of for it to work
Mhm.
together. And for that reason, I feel that we have an opportunity not just to solve the climate problem, but also think about how do we design our own company
Mm,
so that diversity is not even raised as a problem.
yeah,
Inclusivity is not even raised as a problem. It's just built in the way we are. And that's what, that's what, in my view, is our challenge and opportunity is. We won't get everything right on day one, but we'll do our level best from day one to ensure that we don't screw up what we want to build in the company, which other companies are facing in a big way today, right?
yeah.
With everything that's going on in this world.
Yeah. I hope everyone listening in is completely inspired by what you just laid out, because the vision to want to craft something like this when there's really no mandate as such, right? It's not mandatory. There's no punitive damages for screwing up. There's no penalties for making mistakes. And yet you have the vision to not only take one major global challenge, but to take on two at the same time and really use it as an opportunity for crafting something that is barrier breaking and in truly benchmark setting. That's powerful. And I love the detail at which you guys are solving it. So I'd love to, talk to you again in a couple of years back on the show to see exactly what panned out and some of the lessons learned that can be shared with other people as well. But kudos to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? Look, I'm not saying we're trying to solve every problem, but I think we have to work with partners. We have to work with ecosystem of players. And by the way, there are a lot of amazing people out there who are pushing the agenda,
Yeah.
and they bring a lot of different things together. But I really think that if a startup is starting a new company today, this has to be one of the first thing they need to start. Not just their product or idea, but this has to be. And our first hire, just so you know, our partner is our head of people and diversity.
Wow.
Right. And people say, why do you do that? I'm like, talent is the lifeblood of our company. It's a commercial decision as much as it's a cultural decision, right? And a lot of people think diversity and inclusivity is anti-commercial, but this is the commercial thing you can do to
Yes,
build your business, right? So for that reason, I think there is a bit of a selfishness to get this right from day one as well.
absolutely. I love it. Well, it's also proven that companies that have diversity have 6% higher margins and are able to create better, more lasting products. They are more successful in the marketplace, and product inclusion is absolutely key to that, along with the cultural diversity. So,
Absolutely.
um, when you look into, the next decade, what are some of the biggest trends that you believe are something that everybody should have their eye on and therefore align themselves and make themselves future ready for?
Yeah, so I think this can be answered in many ways. I think technology is, of course, is going to change. Is changing everyone's lives, and in 10 years, I see a lot of the hard work that humans do at the some of the lower level will be taken over massively by AI, and in a way that is not diluted, but that is a creative opportunity for people generally. Um, I feel that the role of technology, especially with quantum computing, is going to be really huge. When you're not just doing ones and zeros, and you can do multiple calculations, the speed, which is
Mhm.
just phenomenal opportunity. I also think that one of the big thing I really am excited about this whole concept of humanizing technology.
Mhm.
I really love this concept of how farmers and kind of people who are doing their best every day to kind of run their life, manage their life, how technology kind of comes into their hand and start to kind of help them become really better in terms of their learning, for example, or supporting their family, or fair pricing or transparent pricing. I really think that that will be a day where humanizing the
Yeah.
technology for the right reason is going to be a lot of good. And lastly, I think not technology, but I really feel that entrepreneurial confidence we talked about earlier. I really feel that there will be an emergence of entrepreneurial confidence that's never been seen before, which means that we'll see some amazing,
Innovation.
ideas coming to, yeah, I really love this concept. My son is, he's a musician, and I would love some, him to say music and technology and business coming together, for example. So that kind of swim lanes crossing each other like a zigzag will be a really exciting thing to see, because technology will become easy. This whole concept of low code, no code kind of technologies, where technology is democratized so much so that, a non-techie can build his or her business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be really good fun to kind of watch, in my view.
So, what advice would you give to someone that is earlier in their career and is looking out to the next decade and saying, how do I prepare myself? What do I um, strengthen? And what do I focus on?
Yeah, it's a good one, actually. Pre-COVID, I would have given a different advice to some, if somebody would have asked me for my advice. But post-COVID, I would say the first thing that really actually has impacted my thinking is have a purpose, right? Have a purpose where it's not just about your shareholders or your venture capital investors, it's actually your stakeholders, right? So, think about how your business or your idea helping the society, the community, the climate,
Yeah.
and the shareholders, right? That to me is one of the biggest kind of learnings that I've had. And luckily I got there at the age of 45, but I'm hoping that a lot of 25-year-olds can also have this kind of core purpose in what they build and what they create. The second thing is there's no replacement for hard work, right? I'm a I believe without hard work, and I see this every time, it's not a, startups and entrepreneurship is not fashionable. I think it's actually without hard work, if you don't move, nothing moves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's, in corporate, you're part of a chain, and the chain moves you because you're one of the simple component of the chain. But in a startup, and as you know, Nikki,
Yeah.
if you don't move, nothing moves, right? And the third thing I would say, be extremely agile, right? If something
Mhm.
doesn't work, don't give up, right? Go for the next kind of pivot or idea, as they call in Silicon Valley. Don't give up, because the worst thing you can do is not try, and not try many things, right? So those are the three things I would say from my recent
Great
experiences.
advice. I think one of the biggest myths of success is that all it takes is a 4-hour work week. I think that's a great title to sell millions of books, but not really to make millions.
Exactly. That's a good idea for that founder, right?
Yeah, it's a great idea for that. But I had someone once tell me that I want to quit my job and be my own boss, so I can have freedom and have a 4-hour work week. And I was like, I'll see you on the other side. We'll see.
Exactly. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, to your point. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So, what do you wish you had found out earlier in your life or your career? Um, Now looking back.
Um, I wanted to be a cricketer, so clearly I should have found out that I was never going to be a cricketer in India, given there's so much competition. No, I think, jokes apart, I the only thing I don't regret, I don't have a regret, but I always think about it. Could I have done this thing I did with Brilliant Basics 10 years earlier, and or 20 years earlier? That's the only thing that bugs me a little bit. But then, coming from Indian family background, whatever happens for a good reason, right? So that kind of calms me down a little bit. But I would, and I'm trying to kind of replay that with my kids, right? So that they don't make the same, not mistakes, but same decisions that I did. But at least I can share my experiences with them.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I wish I had done.
You followed
Um,
your dreams sooner.
yeah, sooner. Yeah, yeah, and that is one thing. And the other thing I would say, just a simple one, is there's every day is a good day for doing something new, in my view, right? So yeah,
I love that. Well, that's a great place for us to wrap up. Thank you so much for sharing
my
your
pleasure.
experience, your wisdom, and your perspective with our viewers. I'm excited about what you're on to next and how much impact you'll create in the world. It's been a true pleasure. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.